Welcome back. Another edition of Rick Corey Sports Special. As we continue with our high school football coaches, a guy I'm very familiar with, Kirk Fridrich, the head football coach at Union. A big win at a very difficult place to play in Bentonville. Before we do that, I have to ask, you had a player injured in an unfortunate incident, so everybody wants to know about Jarek Wadey and what's your update?
Yeah, Jarek is improving daily, and he's been released from the hospital, and he'll have some follow-up things and some stuff that he's going to need to do. But very, very encouraged by his improvement, and excited for him and his family, and we'll continue to try to support them any way we can, and as he goes through this process.
Good. Yeah, and there's not a lot we can say, but it was important to get to that. Let's get to the football game. I was there, you were there. There's one thing to look at it, but then you take a look at film and you reassess. Now that you've had a chance to look at it and after you've broken it all down, what are your thoughts?
It's I told somebody the other day is, I kind of wanted to scrub that from the internet. There were some plays that were like, that doesn't look like Union football at all. And but you get back, and I think our kids really responded well this week. But there were some really positive things. We got to see some guys making some plays, and we had some illness that guys were kind of fighting through during the game, and so I was proud of the heart that some of those guys were showing. And for me, it looked a lot like an inexperienced football team playing against a really good opponent. And I thought Bentonville, one, has a great atmosphere over there. It's the first time that we've played a game there. Great high school atmosphere. Everything that they do for their sports was really top notch. And then their football team, I thought was excellent. They're gonna win a lot of football games. I feel like we were really fortunate to win it, but inexperienced from the first kickoff. You've got an inexperienced kicker that is the nerves and things, and then but I mean he was rock solid down the end, making those PATs and hitting the ball well, and then you got guys that are going to be out of position defensively, maybe miss a tackle here or there. You're going to have turnovers on offense, but then you're going to have guys running 77-yard touchdowns. I mean, so overall, making this question longer, but I thought our offensive line played really solid in the game. Excited about where they're at. I like our players. I like the resolve that our kids had. Played pretty bad in the second and third quarter, but in the fourth quarter, I feel like we really turned the tide and had a chance to win the overtime.
Maybe it was just me, and we said this when we were doing the broadcast. That felt like a playoff game from the standpoint of every play mattered, every moment mattered. I mean, edge of the seat, the crowd was great. It really did feel to me like a November or December game.
It really did. I mean, that's exactly what I said, afterwards. I thought that felt like a playoff win, and probably, would have been. I mean, you flash forward, and there's no doubt Bentonville would compete, at that level over here in Oklahoma. So, it had the feeling to that. I'm really glad our team went through it. Glad we won it. And can learn a lot. We could have spent a day and a half on the film, if we'd had the time to do that, but we had to move on pretty quick to Stillwater because they've got a good team.
When you did the breakdown, so as you said, there are plays everybody wants plays back during a game, but when you see those, there's a difference between being a DNA play and I'm just in the wrong place. Most of those, I'm assuming, just in the wrong place, things that are correctable, workable.
Yeah, I think when you have really the inexperience of guys being out there for the first time, a lot of it's communication. There were multiple times where maybe half the players were getting the call, or fatigue made them shut down. You may have a receiver line up wrong, and he's like, "Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, I remember that now." Some of that kind of things take place, put you late in the play clock, so you don't get to make any audibles or any of those kind of things because guys are lining up late or forget things. So communication is a big one. And then, like you said, guys being in the wrong place, I think, was some of it, but I think more of it was communication. I mean, the reason they were in the wrong place was because they didn't rely on their training or rely on communicating with each other. And it's such a huge thing. And then you get in an environment like that under stress, and it's loud, it's crazy, and in the moment, it just magnifies that. So I think as coaches, the players will say, okay, yeah, now we know why you told us we have to use our hand signals every time, or that we have to see the calls or do those things. It's because of this. And so hopefully you'll see a lot of improvement from game one to game two.
Yeah, that's the place it almost always happens, right? And we'll get to Stillwater in a second. When you did have a lot of players that are new-ish, and there's some move-ins, there's always some guys who are young. Any groups that particularly, you mentioned the offensive line, that other than that, that kind of stood out for you? Oh, maybe they stepped up even a little more than you thought.
Well, I think the obvious answer when you talk about O-line is it goes to our running backs. I think that, Tavion Perry Spate did a great job. He's a special talent. I've been working with him. He's been on some of the U teams that my son's been on since, probably third or fourth grade. So I know him very well and know what he can do, and had some really special plays. Jordan Shelling, is back healthy and running extremely tough, and lean on him. I thought a few carries that we had, but LJ McGee continues to impress us. So the depth at our running back position is really good. And then just trying to figure out receiver rotations. I thought Stone Turner had a couple, if we get the ball to those guys, they're going to make big plays. And so offensively, those groups are going to continue to grow. But again, it's one of those that stood out to us defensively. A young kid, Castellanos. I mean, Ian, number 27 is going to be he's going to be a star. I mean, he's so humble and learn for that age. He plays like he's an older guy. Very, very smart. We put a lot of things on our safeties. And he's one of those guys that's trying to play multiple positions. And as a young guy, he's got the physical talent to do those things, and had a big interception, block down in the overtime. He had a block pass off of a blitz, those kinds of things. So I'm excited about him. He was our defensive player of the game. So as a sophomore coming out, that's tough to do. And then, Gavin and our special teams. And we had some guys that we didn't cover the kick well on some, but man, there were some bright spots. Gary Hector went down. Pat Thompson had some big plays in some of those kicks. So special teams is going to be exciting as well.
That final drive in overtime. I'm hearing the defensive coaches. Your coaches are right next to us in the booth, and we heard them all night. And I was hearing no touchdowns, we win. No touchdowns, we win. No touchdowns, we win. You hold them, or you go and you go get your touchdown. And I thought Jordan Shelling, when he started for the corner, I wasn't sure he was going to make it. I mean, when you mentioned him being healthy again, I think you saw it maybe right there. What an effort play to get there. But then that defensive series there on that fourth down, again, playoff type atmosphere. When you saw that snap on the ground, I don't know if your heart fluttered like mine did, but that was a moment right there.
There's no doubt about it. And the things you don't see, that in that last drive to force the overtime, we had a receiver line up in the wrong place, and the play successful, but you're like, probably would have been more successful if we had run it the right way. So kids overcoming some of those things, and even defensively, some coverage things that should have been better on some of those plays, but the kids just found a way to do it. And that fourth quarter touchdowns thing, that's a goal of ours that we have from a defensive unit. Coach Foster and his staff do a great job of every week we judge our team off of, did we give up a fourth quarter touchdown? And so emphasizing that and knowing in that moment, we're counting on our offense. We're down, but if we don't let them score again, our offense is going to get it done. And so that's exactly what happened. And we got to hang our hat on that and show our kids, if you stay in this thing, you got a chance to win.
Yeah, two things before we move to Stillwater. One, a win like that early in the season where you really have to gut it out. And as you said, it's not all great. And you can get in the film room and say, look what we could have done better, which I'm sure Bentonville could say too. But still, what kind of a boost is that for a young football team?
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's one of those that, for me, I mean, we were about as dead as you could be in that second and third quarter. I mean, there are so many goals that we look at that help you win football games, and we didn't hit very many of them. And so when I say we were fortunate to win, we were. But the goals we did hit. Those are the things where you say, hey, here's the situation, averaging 9 yards on first down. I mean, if we could have just played first down the whole game, we'd have probably run away with it. But there's things there that you can do. Didn't protect the football well. We've got to do a better job with that. Giving up a stupid score. Those kinds of things. When you're playing a playoff team, you just don't win games like that. But the way we found hard at the end, we went from a team that looked like physically we were exhausted and weren't going to make it through the game to a team that had quite a bit of tenacity and heart in that fourth quarter. And definitely in the overtime, the determination. I thought our offensive coaching staff showed great patience in that last drive. You know, the amount of time of possession in the fourth quarter, we were able to hold the ball, and we did the same thing in the first quarter. So there's a lot of things you can find, and then okay, we're going to find our identity with this football team, and maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's we run the football, we keep the ball away from people while the defense grows up. Those are things that you find out going through the first three games.
Yeah. And then you mentioned the receiver, rotation. Without Jerick, it's going to change. Any thoughts about who's going to step into some of those roles? I know Stone Turner's been good. Boston's always good.
Yeah. So Jordan Saavedra is probably the first one that pops there. Jordan is a guy that played a lot the other night. He knows every position. JT will play some there as well. So just figuring out the rotation of rest for those guys that are playing on both sides of the ball will be crucial for us as coaches to organize that a little bit better. And then I think that, some other guys at different positions, Tay Perry can play that spot some as well. So, we'll kind of grow as we go there, but Jerick will be one that'll be tough to replace.
Yeah, Tay may be everywhere. Who knows? He could be like, Shamari. He might have a defensive end. You just don't know. And then let's flip over to Stillwater. You've got, of course, a history there. And they have a history, too, being a pretty good football team. What have you seen of them on film?
Well, they've got the program is so much stronger since they've had success. They're definitely at the top of that, 6A. They've won a championship. They came up about a yard short of beating Muskogee last year for a back-to-back championships. They were the team that was challenging Bixby every year, in the finals and those things. So they've definitely gotten strong over the years. And then, individually, they've got some Division I guys. They've got a really good defensive end. They've got a nose guard that also plays tight end for them that is kind of a beast. The quarterback is what I would say is I would call him a slinger. I mean, just a guy that literally he threw the ball 65 yards in the scrimmage against Bixby, completed a pass to two outside receivers that are really good. Deacon Jones is one of those, and then Thomas is another one that those guys are going to play on Saturday. So outside receivers are really good. The defense is has kind of where they've made themselves kind of an identity there with the I don't know, unorthodox, psycho, minute bucket, whatever you want to call it, type of defense. So there's going to be a lot of plays this week that they're going to hit on. I mean, when you blitz 7 guys and they're all standing up at the line of scrimmage and they're crossing and nobody's in a 3-point stance, it makes it tough on your offensive line. So there's going to be plays they hit, but I think there's some creases where we can make a few plays as well. And having a veteran quarterback like Shaker who doesn't get rattled too much, I think can be really key in this game.
Sure be nice after going 2 hours east and then an hour plus west to actually play in your place, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would. It feels like we got such a great stadium here that we haven't been in it yet. So, yeah, it'll be fun for me. A little nostalgic. I haven't been back over there in a long time. I have been there coaching on that sideline against Stillwater, before the 6A split. So, but it's kind of neat, to have my youngest son being a senior, going back over there, and he was just born when we left. So It's been a while since we've lived there, but Coach K Wood, their head coach, was on my staff. He was actually a volunteer assistant when I first got there, and then he made it onto our staff before I left, and now he's the head coach there, and I'm really proud of him and what he's done.
Well, our best to Jarek. We hope things go well there. And boy, at least maybe the weather's a little better. It'll be a little nice for practice this week. Good luck, and we'll talk to you again after this one next week.
Sounds great. Thanks, Rick.